I had to put the waiting room because we can't control who's coming in or not, and I didn't want you to have to sign into a Zoom account, but you still can get put out now. Don't forget that part. You
believe
put
that.
out.
Believe
You muted.
that if you believe nothing else. So it looks like we can not do Instagram lives ever. So that's good to know. We're just gonna have to stick with other methods for our chats and discussions because Instagram just ain't it, obviously.
I'm scared to put the link on Twitter because
I put it on. I put it on my Twitter.
oh, you did.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where all the bombers are gonna come in. We really gonna,
we'll put them out with the quickness. I'm gonna put it on our on the Facebook and the social medias.
yeah, I put it in the IG, the link to swipe up. So hopefully I'm gonna put it now. Hold on, y'all. Let us just share these links real fast.
That's really crazy though.
I swear.
Like, we have not had a clean Instagram live chat ever. Ever.
Oh. Brittany say, he said, y'all got to start lying. Start working.
And this is, it's really nice that y'all followed us to Zoom.
Yeah,
because honestly, if it were me, I'd been like, all right, bye. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm like, not with these ball-headed games. But thank y'all for rocking with us.
Yes. And feel free, just like IG Live, to use the chat. Like, think of it no different. So please continue to use this as if it's IG Live and put your comments, your questions into the chat. And I'm confident that this is going to work way better than IG Live. Because they can't troll us on here. Well,
they can. But
let me not speak too fast.
Let me add this to the Facebook for Gen X.
Well, about 500 people come now though. What there go? Let me. Yeah.
All right. I mean, I guess also this is okay because we can also record this and upload it to Instagram. So
yeah,
we pivot and we always pivot in anyway. So that's just what we do. That's what it is. All right, let me upload this one thing. Join us now. Also, if you have questions about Olympics and what you may have heard already, please put it in the chat and we can get to it right now. Alrighty. Well, that's what it's gonna be. Can't do no more Instagram lives. Just gotta be pre-recorded. That's our lived reality. It's our current lived and ancestral reality. All about the security and surveillance.
that's what
somebody's reporting us per usual. So again, thank y'all for rocking with us.
All right.
Okay. We have, pretty much the same folks that was tuning in. Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We can start whenever you want. I'll lead you in again with your famous quote. With the famous quote by Dr. Javier Wallace: Latin America loves to keep its Black populace tucked away and hidden until it's time to win some shit. And the other one, might as well just put out all the bangers at once. And that every 4 years, Latin America is pissed because it's Black people representing their anti-Black countries and governments. And so I was saying how the framing of when these world-class athletes win golds, they win the gold for Ecuador, they win the gold for Venezuela, Puerto Rico. People will forget their names, but they'll know that you did this for Patria, you did this for the country. And yesterday we were discussing this, how Mijaín Lopez from Cuba, Afro-Cuban wrestler, he got his fourth or fifth gold, fourth, which is a world record, right? And, he won his match and he was celebrating and, he lifted up his coach, and he had the Cuban flag waving it around. And the announcer said, congratulations to him, congratulations to Cuba, Latin America, he represents us. And I paused and I was like, now when have y'all ever said Black people represent y'all? And we were talking about this, I'm like, and when else would you ever say that? But then you were like, don't worry, Dash, Olympics is done in a week. You're like,
it's almost over. It's almost over. And we're going to go back to the same script. And those people are going to go back to the same marginalized positions that they already occupy as athletes in these countries. Because a lot of people, like I was telling you, is a lot of people think that people that participate in the Olympics are like these highly paid, professional, glorified athletes. And that is so far away from the case. The athletes who participate in the Olympics, and it literally took like an act of global Congress to get professional athletes to be able to participate in the Olympics, because historically it's been an amateur event. These people are literally like doing it on behalf of the country, because the country is the one who pays for that entire deal. They're largely not even getting paid at all. So many of these people are going back to be what they were before they started training. And some people are professional athletes and are getting deals outside, and some people are struggling to make it by. They just have an athletic talent. So as soon as it's over, many of those people are going to go back to their whatever place that they were before, and nobody, and largely people aren't going to care about them. We'll walk past them in the street at all.
Or racially profile them in the street, as they did with Irving Saladino in Panama. The biggest thing. Okay, so we have to kick somebody out.
Yeah, I'm about to right now, Jose. One that
Of course, it's always.
Se va de aquí, hombre. Se va.
And for what?
Se va de aquí, hombre. What do you want to report?
Always.
Send him to the
We were saying how these world-class athletes, they win gold, they win all the accolades and glory for these nations that disenfranchise them, have been for centuries. Their material conditions don't change. Their material conditions remain the same. The countries remain anti-Black. We were talking about how Irving Saladino, who won Panama's first gold medal in history, was racially profiled in his own residential building. Because a black man in here, no, you must be here to steal something, or you must be here to work, because there's no way you can live here. Obviously, the people didn't recognize him, and that's not something that's unrealistic, right? Maybe people don't know about him. You and me know about him, of course, but the conditions of our lived realities do not change with a gold medal.
At all. At all. At all. at all. At all, and I just got to continue. I'm going to continue to repeat it. Like, many people do not realize that this is a largely amateur event, largely amateur event. And again, I'm going to repeat it. I know I'm repeating myself, but those who benefit financially from their athletic talents and labor in the Olympics are in the minority. And the way the nation continues to paint it is that many of these people who are in the minority and don't make lots of money from their participation in the Olympics. I forgot what I was saying because I'm making you a co-host. My bad. You got
Go
it.
ahead. Now I can control who's in and who's out. So don't even worry about it. Go ahead.
Okay. The damn, I forgot what I was saying for real. Oh yeah, who benefit financially from their wins? That's still didn't. Thank you to Tamika. I'm pronouncing that wrong. Now I lost my train of thought.
That's all right. Well, I have to do the Black Mama thing. That's all right. Who benefits financially from Black athletes' wins? You said it's largely amateur.
The nation, and okay, that's what I was saying. But and they're always going to paint it. And you sent me a screenshot of somebody who claimed to be legitimately asking and not trying to be ridiculous about the opportunity that these people are getting. And your response is, what opportunity? The opportunity is not of the athlete solely. The opportunity is of the nation. And if we want to talk about an opportunity that they have in many cases, it really makes me think of this woman named Sharon Gonzalez from Peru, who talks about the Black Peruvian women's volleyball team, how these women, after their Olympic appearances on behalf of Peru, and like shock the world that they have Black women on this team represent the nation, how they have since ascended into politics and representing their communities and representing their communities in a political stance in Peru. Their opportunity literally came because of their participation in the Olympics, because outside of that, nobody was counting for them. Nobody was looking for them. Nobody cared about them. So if we do want to think about it as an opportunity, the opportunity is BS, because that is now the only way, and one of the only ways, that these people can have access to these positions. And like I was telling Sharon, I don't think that these women were better able to represent their communities because they could spike a volleyball. The unfortunate part is, because they can spike a volleyball is the only opportunity they had to represent their communities. And that's what's messed up. That's the messed up part about it. But the nation will continue to take as much as they can from their labor.
And that reminds me of, there's hundreds of cases of these. The one that always strikes me is Pambele, the Afro-Colombian boxer that won a global title. I think it was like his second or third. And Colombian media asked, you won this title, what do you want? What are you gonna do? And he said, I want running water for my community. I said he had to go get his brain bashed in on an international stage for some goddamn running water. And the thing is that that's one. There's Ulises de la Cruz, who went to the multiple World Cups on the Ecuadorian national team, and he used his own money to make potable water for his community, to build a health center, to build a school. And so Gerline Joseph, she's the director of the Haitian Bridge Alliance. She said one time in a talk she gave that Black people have to pay for things that should be free, and we pay a higher price. And so, like you said, because I can spike a ball, now I have this opportunity to speak about these human rights that are being denied from my community intentionally, And I was discussing this with our friend Lamed, how at every opportunity, every platform that a Black person gets, sometimes or rather, in my opinion, it's necessary to speak on that intentional disenfranchisement.
Yeah.
Because I was watching a talk with Nash Batia, who's also was a world-class athlete in Panama. And the person she was interviewing said, they romanticize this, si se puede, you can do it. You can get out of your conditions. They have these memes. I think it was a Brazilian football player who was, I think, cleaning windows or doing some type of devalued labor, right? And then in the next frame, it's him with a trophy. Yeah. Like, if you just put your mind to it, if you just put your best foot forward, you can do it. And nobody is asking, why are they living in these conditions to begin with?
But you know, that's in this goes to the paper that I've been writing forever, and it's not just an academic paper, but it's you know, I really, and it's no different across the board, because you can hear these things in English, you can hear these things in Spanish, Portuguese, French, what have you, name the country, like there's going to be a similar rhetoric. But the one that I'm most familiar with besides the United States and for this context is Panama. And I think, you know, we talk about this in our classes too, but you know, there's this phrase in Panama, or a stereotype rather, that says los mejores futbolistas salen de los barrios populares, or the best soccer players come from the ghetto or come from the hood. And the thing about it is the state depends on these young people being in these nearly impossible situations. They need, and disgustingly so, depend on this undeniable grit that these young people bring to the game. That their warrior-like efforts to leave it all on the field and to get it. You know, the sport industry, the government depends on them not having access to healthcare, not having access to a dignified life through being able to go to school, graduate from school, getting a decent job. The state needs them to be in these very marginalized positions and exert their energy and efforts to this sport that ultimately they know will power the machine. Because if they have access to becoming a lawyer, a doctor, any type of profession outside of sport where their education can be used, who are they going to get? Because we know the people who have access, to all those things, sport is a hobby for them. It's a hobby. And some of them happen to be very good at it. And some of them are probably in the Olympics. But for some people, sport is more than a hobby. It is life. It is life. And it's intentionally so. And, you know, and when I talk about basketball trafficking, even in, you know, I talk about Nike a lot. And, you know, if you are in the space of just living, you know, there's this slogan, a campaign that talks about ball is life. And, you know, we see it all the time, like ball is life. But ball is not life. But playing ball or playing sports for certain communities has been situated as life, because it is one of the only chances many of these young people have of having a dignified life. So even at the point of selling shoes and selling shirts, it's still based off of these marginalized conditions. And all these young people are taught to believe is this myth of meritocracy. If you work hard enough, you're going to get there. Behave, do it. But it's all a farce. All of it is a farce. And
with no tools. With no tools. Because Alonso Edward, he's the Panamanian hopeful, right? I think he made the finals, right? And I think he spoke out about how done. Oh, he's done? He got eliminated?
Yeah, he's done.
Oh,
But go ahead, because I didn't hear what you were about to say, what he said.
No, you heard this. You've heard it. You've heard it all before. Come on. Even if you didn't hear it, you heard it. He was saying how it was him and also a footballer, Athena, I believe. Athena, right?
The boxer.
Say it again.
The boxer.
It was, I remember her saying it, and also Alonso saying that the Panamanian government didn't invest in any of their training. They had to finance all of their training themselves. And so even with this messaging, they're still not investing shit.
At all.
And I want to mention that in the US, you have athletes who can do pretty well with endorsements, right? Mm-hmm. They can become multimillionaires with just endorsements alone. I don't see that same trend in Latin America.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No, not at all. So like, there's a couple things that work there. So the first thing that's at work is, one, there's a grand scale of inequality as far as like resources and infrastructure, thinking about sport and infrastructure between the global North and the global South. Like, we can say that wholeheartedly, and that has to do with just racism. It has to do with imperialism. It has to do with a lot of inequities across the board. So it makes it difficult for certain countries like Panama or like a Costa Rica or like many countries in Latin America and the Caribbean to be competitive with the nations in the global North, and particularly like the professional sports, right? That can give these endorsements and can give these huge contracts. So you see that inequality across the board. And so you see this desire, this need for many athletes in the global South to need to migrate to the global North, largely to take advantage of these large payouts that they can get through sport. But then also within that, since we know at a structural level that there's inequality, now you have to look at the inequality within the country itself, in the global South, and then see how that inequality works out for individuals there. Because we know that there's a structural level that Panama just can't compete with the US, that Dominican Republic just can't compete with the US infrastructure. But then when you look at what's happening inside the country, take out the US, take out Europe, Western Europe, wow, then you really see a large, even bigger scale of disparity happening within the country in the sports system too, where you're dealing with so much anti-Blackness at that level and so much structural inequality at Black people that it even talks about migration. And then how now the countries depend on their diaspora to come in and take up the space of the nation state, which has failed its people. And, so then now not only do you have Alonso Edward and Athena talking about the country's lack of investment in them, and they're Panamanians born, raised, and live in the country, represent the country, but then you have people like Gianna Woodruff, who is a Black Panamanian woman of the diaspora, who's representing the country in the Olympics as well as she should be, because she's within her right to do that. But what we miss out there is how the countries themselves are now not even having to deal with what's going on in the country, but they can depend on their diaspora to come and represent the country. But all the meanwhile, you can't discount what the decision-making process largely for Gianna Woodruff's Panamanian parents to migrate to the United States. You got to talk about the ability, their inability, like my parent, like my father, the inability to have a dignified life to remain in Panama. That's why they left. That's why they left. So now, because of your anti-Blackness, these people have left. And now you can depend on this inequitable system of the United States, which is a little bit better than yours at a structural level, infrastructure level, to now represent your country again. So you just continue to take the benefit of the people and still keep those other people at the bottom inside the country. Because now you don't even got to deal with them. And if they want to be there, they got to do like Alonso did. They got to finance it themselves because they're now so dependent on the diaspora that they forced out to make way. And we just saw that with the Ogumake sisters in Nigeria, the Nigerian American sisters play on the basketball, right? I think two of the sisters are playing for Nigeria. One of them couldn't play for the United States, right? And a lot of Nigerians are happy that these sisters that are American born, American trained are playing for Nigeria on his behalf, but it's so much stuff that's like not being accounted for within that. And there's inequality across the board. And the last thing, so we can keep going, I'll bring up too, is Rey Zapata. Rey Zapata, the Dominican, the Black Spanish man of Dominican ancestry, right? We can't discount hundreds of years of colonialism connecting Dominican Republic to Spain. And what that 100 years of colonialism has done to force Rey Zapata's parents to migrate to Spain from Dominican Republic in that relationship. We can't discount that and just say that he's Spanish without, I'm going to say he's Spanish because that's important. Yeah, but we can't discount that piece. And now now it's on him to represent, to decide, does he represent Dominican Republic or represent Spain? Because both of them will be anti-Black regardless. But now, it's on him. And it's like, bro, y'all, I ain't have a pot to piss in or when to throw it out of in the DR. So we were forced to come over here and y'all treat us like shit over here. So now it's on me to decide who I represent.
You can't win for losing. And you brought up an important point, the pressure. The pressure. This is something else that has been throughout with Simone. Simone is Belizean, so I'm apt to say Biles, but Simone Biles opting to prioritize her well-being instead of risking her life, because that I want to center that as well. Yeah. That this is not hopscotch. This ain't no hopscotch. These sports are dangerous. These sports are dangerous. You know what I'm saying? They are dangerous. Yet Black people have to put their safety to the side for the nation that, like you said, won't even offer them a pot to piss in. And so all of this pressure is riding on this Black body because that's what people are seeing. They're not seeing a person. They're seeing a machine. They're seeing a body. They're seeing a vehicle to glory, right? Our personhood is always extracted. Our humanity is never accorded to us. It's that pressure. Well, why would you give up? Because I feel like it.
For real, for real.
Because I feel like it.
That's it. Because I feel like it. Because I feel like it. Yeah, so the Olympics, it's so much that's being shown to the world right now. But none of this stuff is new. I think, because of where we are right now, there are more of us that are having these conversations. But when you look even like historically at the Olympics, you see the same exact thing happening right now. This question of nationality, who is really a part of the nation, who's not a part of the nation, the people that they're going to allow to be a part of the nation, and who's just not ever going to be a part. And like some countries will never field any Black people at all. And it's kind of, it's vogue right now, if I'm being completely honest, to have Black athletes in certain sports. And it's harder in other places to get Black representation in the sports, because I was sharing today on the podcast I was on earlier, like, even with countries where you feel like we have this idea that there aren't really Black people there, which I'm very reluctant to say, because we know migration at its current state, that there are people of the diaspora everywhere around the globe. And it's not that these people are being imported into the country for athletic purposes. Some are. Now, some are, especially those in the SWANA, what some people might call the Middle East. But even that is, I'm reluctant to say that, but because there's always are people there. Some people are bought, literally, their nationality is bought into these places, but we have to always understand that we can't separate the lived realities of people, Black people in these countries, from what they're doing on the stage. And, you know, and just because Italy has a Black person winning the 100 meters or a Black woman on the volleyball team, that does not mean life for Black people in Italy is honky-dory, because it's not at all. At all. Not even a little bit. Not even
That's
a little.
what we were discussing a couple weeks ago about the famous, like world famous TikToker. I think now he's the number one social media person in the world.
Oh, yeah.
The Senegalese Kid. And his name escapes me right now. But he's the one that always does the, like, why are y'all doing all this stuff? Just close the door or just cut the paper. Why are you doing all this stuff? And yes, he's hilarious, and he doesn't even say a word. In one of the articles, it said that he has lived in Italy since he was a child, and he does not have Italian citizenship. And we were discussing how I'm like, they're probably gonna give him Italian citizenship now, but it's because what, he had to become the number one TikToker in the world.
Yep.
For that.
Mm-hmm.
Like Chris, you know, and I don't like Chris Rock anymore because he's a coon, but he said Black people have to achieve things flying that white people achieve walking. Mm-hmm. And you brought up the Greek basketball player, right?
Giannis. Yeah, Giannis. Parents migrated from Nigeria to Greece. He and some of his siblings, I'm not sure if all of his siblings were born in Greece, but he and at least a couple of his siblings that were Greek born, because Greek doesn't have birthright citizenship, were forced to be undocumented people throughout their entire lives living in Greece. And, you know, Giannis gets to the point as he's starting to grow into his natural body and playing basketball, and people associating tall people with being good basketball players, you know, he's being pushed into basketball, and he's actually pretty good at it. And, you know, he's playing in different leagues at different levels in Greece. And it gets to the point where he no longer, let me not say no longer, but it gets to the point where he is seen as a legitimate recruit to play in the NBA. Like, he's legit. But the NBA in its current state doesn't allow stateless individuals or people without a legal migratory status to enter into the draft. So what happens? You know, there is tremendous benefit for Greece to have a NBA player representing their country in the best professional basketball league in the world. So literally the next day he gets Greek citizenship. And, you know, it's something that you say all the time. They did it that fast. They could have did that last year. They could have done that when he was 17. They could have done it when he was 16. They could have did it when he was 15. They could have done that when he was 14. They could have done it when he was 12. They could have done it when he was born, right? It gets all the way down to that. And the next day, he becomes a Greek citizen. And to this day, he's now the Greek freak. That's what people call him, the Greek freak. And I'm like, how? You know, and like him and his brother, and respect to Giannis. Giannis wouldn't, he came, but you gotta see what he did though. Because he was like, I ain't coming to the US unless my brother can come. So guess what that means? The brother became a Greek citizen. Well, you know what? I'm here playing, but I'm not going to stay playing unless my parents can come. His parents were undocumented. So somehow, the parents get citizenship, and now they're able to legally travel to the United States. So I like how he played it. I don't think he'll ever come out publicly, at least where he is in his career right now, and say anything negative about the Greek state. But I mean, if we were privy to hear some of those private conversations, I'm pretty sure, you know, he would be 100 with it. 100 with it.
But we probably we already can imagine. I mean, we know, right? And I was saying period, because Gianni's put his conditions. And this is something that you always say, and this is something that you advise the Asociación Deportiva Curundú, the football league that we collaborate with, that they will never not use Black people, but we have to put our conditions too. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna say yes until my brother, my mom, my dad, my play cousin, my real cousin, my godfather, my god sister, my neighbor, my dog, and the puppies that just was born can come to the US too. And this is what, you know, the whole thing, don't hate the player, hate the game. Hate the game and put your conditions.
Yeah, he did that.
Put your conditions. And you brought up several times as you were talking, and we're going to wrap up soon. And we're going to have more of these combos in the future, but you said brother, sister, sports are generational. Mm-hmm. You see so many siblings in these sports, like Nacy Dahom is her sister. I believe her name is Angie Palacios. She's also a weightlifter. On the Cuban beach volleyball, or no, I'm sorry, the Dominican volleyball team is a pair of sisters on there. And you're gonna see siblings over and over and over. The sports are generational.
They are very generational. And all this BS associated with a generational too. And I'm very interested to see how certain countries are going to move forward. Even like Nana is saying here, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. Like, you know, the Italy to Nigeria piece. Like we really are going to have to see what many of these nations are going to do. And one nation that I got my eye on, and I'm continue to have my eye on it, is Argentina. What is a nation that I honestly believe is committed to a certain image of its nation on any public international stage, to the point that they're going to not, and I think it's happening, it has to be happening right now, not allowing certain people to represent the country. And you know, we have to take account of that, understanding that sport is sometimes one of the only or one of the more limited ways for Black people to ascend or have a dignified life in society. And what does that mean when that one of the few opportunities is taken away? And you know, now as Argentina has a historical Black population that has always been there, but then if you add the migration of Black people from the continent of Africa, you add the migration of Black people from the Caribbean and other countries in Latin America, migrating and settling and having families in Argentina, we're going to have to see what will they do? Will they allow these individuals to participate? And I think one country that I mean, not one, because we see it all, including the United States, including Italy, including Spain, as we just saw. But I think one country that really pops to my mind is Australia. You know, Australia has what they call a more recent migration of Black African people from the continent to Australia as refugees or for other reasons why they're migrating. And, you know, they are starting to participate in these international games. And I'll never forget, I had a class, international relations and sport class in UT with an Australian. And, you know, I was ready. I was like, I'm gonna get his ass today. He think he gonna come here with that shit. I got him today. So, you know, I'm like, dang, boy. And I'm like, man, I'm just so amazed to see Australia with so many Black players. And, you know, I knew he was coming. And he was like, well, you know, they're not really Australian. I'm like, so what that make you? Because y'all ain't goddamn aboriginals of that shit. You ain't indigenous, you got red hair. You a white, you white boy with red hair. You know, so I think we're gonna continue to see that in the countries that are going to, Mexico is another one. Mexico is one that I don't think, except in basketball, because we actually see that happening right now in the Mexican basketball league, in Argentina as well too. Like, that's what really blows me about Mexico and Argentina, because they have some of the better, more established professional basketball leagues in Latin America. Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay have very strong professional basketball leagues, and they depend on Black Latin American labor primarily, and African American labor in these systems. So like, if you ever watch a professional game in Argentina at the basketball level, you're going to see so many Black Panamanians, so many Black Costa Ricans, so many Black Dominicans, Cubans playing in those leagues. The same thing in Mexico. So for me, it's like, it's impossible for them not to be able to have Black people on their Olympic squads. So it leads me to believe that they're very intentional about who they are allowing to be the face of the nation. And history has already told us the truth about that. And Mexico, we know Mexico is doing it. I think Mexico will allow Black people to play basketball because they are recruiting, and this is a strategy that Mexico has. This might be surprising for some people, but Mexico actually recruits from the United States to play the professional league. But you know who they look for? They look for what we call Blaxicans, right? People who have an African-American parent and have a mestizo non-Black Mexican parent, because there's this belief that the Black genes make them very good, but the Mexican parents tied to the nation can get them citizenship. So, and it doesn't go against their visa count because they only can have a certain amount of non-citizen players representing the squad. But if they know the parent can get citizenship or has citizenship, they can automatically get it to the child. And I think we'll see that happen, but I think Argentina's committed. Uruguay, Paraguay is committed to not having Black people. Yes, it's very eugenics like. They're committed to having these things. And
you know what strikes me is the strategizing, the extracting, and people, I want to really lift this up. None of this is coincidental. None of this is, oh, it just happened. All of this is intentional. And we have had people in our classes as, you know, they can't reconcile some contradictions, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, sometimes the answer is just, they are anti-Black racist scum. That is the answer for a lot of your questioning. It's the answer for a lot of your confusion. It's the answer to the entire establishment. And so when you brought up Mexico, you have your pinned tweet, follow Javier on Twitter, Prof_J Wallace, about the Black Mexican, I was about to say Mexican, Black Mexican referee, Adalid Maganda, who was stripped of his livelihood for taking a stance against the racial violence he has been subjected to in Mexican Football Federation for years, and in being in solidarity with Black Lives Matter. And we saw, you know, and people had tagged me to it. We saw the Costa Rican gymnast who did the Black Lives Matter kneel. And, you know, it gets kind of old because I'm like, all right, that's cool. But the material conditions have not changed. Obviously, yes, the solidarity, the symbolism, there is value in all of that. And, you know, as Evelyn always encourages us, and it's not but, and being in solidarity with his own Black life, because we're you know, it's not being in solidarity with North American Blacks, it's being in solidarity with your own Black life. He has been stripped of his livelihood. And the risk that Black Latin Americans have, even more so than Black North Americans, in affirming their personhood. They are immediately stripped. In the same way we had the discussion about Cuba, how Black Cubans were leading the protests. And somebody in our Afro-Latino Travel Instagram page said, now, if only Black Cubans could speak about the conditions in their country. And I said, they will go directly to jail. And so we have to understand that risk. This person who is typing on their smartphone in their air-conditioned apartment can say, oh, I wish you could speak about the conditions in Cuba. There are Black Cubans who have been speaking out about it. Don't put that on the athlete.
You can't. And I mean, and that's the problem in the danger with these nationalisms in Latin America. Like, that is the problem with the mestizaje nationalisms that flattened a national conversation. It's not saying they flattened the real life experiences and the advocacy that people have always put forth, but as far as like a national conversation, what is taught in school and what people come to believe, it is completely flattened. So, you know, you have these super pro whatever, insert the country, that are going to be the first ones in defense of the nation and said they're not Black, they're not Afro, they're just insert the nationality. That's who they are, right? And you would be hard pressed to hear that coming. I think, in my opinion, you would be hard pressed to hear that coming out of somebody from the United States, any white person, because they're like, we can't say that because we know. And that's not to say that the US is more advanced. That's not what it is. But what I'm trying to highlight is the violence in these Latin American nationalisms, and how when people do try to say something, how dangerous it can become for them, literally, that moves beyond just being attacked on social media, but their literal lives are in danger. You know, and that is an issue. And, you know, it's like in the tweet that you showed me, you know, like where, you know, you call Yolimar, why am I blanking on Rojas?
Yulimar Rojas. Afro-Venezuelan, because the Venezuelans had an issue with us saying she's Afro-Venezuelan. They said she's not Afro, she's negrita.
What did he say? Una negrita excelente, or something to that effect.
Una negrita excelente. An excellent little Black woman, because the ita is diminutive. That she is an excellent little Black woman. She's not Afro-Venezuelan. Nobody uses those words, which is a lie. She is a negrita because this stranger on the internet gets to tell you, Limar, who and what she is.
And that, for me, that says it all. For me, that says it all about the violence that exists, because that's all she is. That's all we are. Los negritos. Punto final. Los negritos. Not
those Blacks over there.
Those Blacks.
It's just like that.
Because it's like, how would you know, like, would he say that she was una mestiza excelente? No, he would probably say una venezolana excelente. So even within who he conceptualized to be a citizen of the nation, we're not included. Because una negrita, because he wouldn't say una blanquita excelente. He wouldn't say that. He wouldn't say mestiza excelente. Una venezolana. You're only going to be that if you negro in India. And I mean, for me, when you show me, I said, oh, this is it right here. Oh, this is it. This is it. In the same sentence.
Right. She's not Afro, she's negrita. Where the hell you think Black people come from? Juana? Where, again, divorcing us from our humanity, right? Over and over and over. And so, you know, I always double down. I said what the fuck I said, bitch. If you got a problem, you ain't gotta follow us, you know, because we ain't changing for shit. You followed an account entitled AfroLatino Travel. What do you think Afro means? It's not in theory. And so I want to lift up again how you have said repeatedly in this talk about athletes, or rather the few pathways that Black Latin Americans have for a dignified life is through sports. And we see it in the Dominican Republic, San Pedro de Macorís, the baseball player factory, right? Wow. We see it in Cuban baseball. Wow. And we often talk about Yaciel Puig's journey, literally on a raft from Cuba to get to the major leagues, the things that Black people have to go through. And so in centering that, all of what we're describing are the very narrow prescribed roles that Black people have access to for quality of life and dignified life. Mm-hmm. And this discussion of citizenship also comes into play because I was talking about this in a video, that we're not simply talking about membership, like, oh, you're not as Boricua, you're not as Panamanian. We're talking about Black people being terrorized. We're talking about citizenship. Citizenship affects your quality of life, affects things that you have access to, affects how you are treated, affects how resources are allocated. And so it's not a thing of, well, you're not Latina enough. That is of no consequence. We are talking about access to a dignified life.
100%. 100%. And that's the exact reason why I've decided, especially given all the conversations that are happening right now, surrounding Black athletes in these different countries, including Latin America, I decided to not engage in it to the point of reducing it down to like this kind of like you say, like this idyllic membership. Because the reality of it is, and even in the case of Jasmine Camacho Quinn, the reality of it is, it's not to say that this idyllic membership doesn't matter, but the reality of it is that there are material consequences of being a Black person living in Puerto Rico right now that extend beyond how somebody of that diaspora feels about that individual being Boricua or Afro-Boricua. Because the anti-Blackness is so strong and ingrained into the everyday lives of those people that me arguing with these people is not going to change the material realities of those individuals that are racialized as Black people in Puerto Rico, whether they are citizens or they're not. And this is just the best time for people to rob space right now, to steal the space and say, she's not really Puerto Rican. Who? What?
But she has gold and you don't. So let's keep that straight.
And that's the crazy thing about this situation, because we often see, right? You good until you miss the goal. Then you the nigga. You back to being a nigga. But you can see in this instance, you win gold and you still a nigga. And that's the thing.
The point.
That's the thing about this particular instance. It's not like the huge global spectacle that happened a couple of weeks ago with the English soccer team, and those 3 Black men missed the penalty shots and they lost the game. We're talking about somebody, a place that barely has any medals. And let me repeat that. A place that barely got any medals. She didn't win bronze. She didn't win silver. She fucking won the gold medal. And we talking about, is she Puerto Rican or not? Motherfucker, you better go run and paint her with a flag and give her whatever it is y'all eat down there. And she best to be the best Puerto Rican you ever seen. Somebody who want to go, I'm serious. I'm like, y'all talking about her like she went out there and lost. I mean, I can get that because y'all do it. Y'all gonna, that's what y'all do. I get that. But this woman went out there and won a gold medal, flying colors, like by leaps and marches.
Broke the Olympic record, remember? Broke an Olympic record while you sitting in your underwear, didn't even wash your ass today, on Instagram, tapping.
Yeah, she's Puerto Rican. Get the fuck out of y'all better. I mean, if she ain't, y'all need to go down there and pay the Puerto Rican Olympic Committee for bringing y'all that medal. However they got it, however they got it for y'all. It is, that's the crazy thing for me about that. I'm like, this woman won a gold medal.
That's why I say you can't win for losing. You. And I'm like, unsubscribe from this because it's always going to be another poll test. Remember the poll test for Black folks who wanted to vote in the US? Take this literacy test. No. We're going to move the goalpost. The issue is that they are anti-Black. The gold medal ain't the issue. Whether she speaks Spanish or not ain't the issue. Whether she lived or visited Puerto Rico is not the issue. Is that you're an anti-Black scumbag. Because the line of questioning was never for any of these white women who represented Puerto Rico in other instances. It's all the heat for Jasmine, who is impeccable.
I mean, it's really, now that's taking me.
Vanny says, literally punching outside their weight class. Hello, you are out of your league.
And that's what I'm saying. And that's exactly what I say. I mean, when I talk about certain countries, I'm like, certain countries rather go out there and just lose. And that's what they want. I mean, that's what it seems like a certain contingent of Puerto Ricans wanted. Like they wanted her not to win because they don't want to have that etched in their history of who they are and who represents them. They hate seeing that. And the first question that comes out of a very well-known Puerto Rican Olympian, I can't remember the woman's name, is not congratulations, not wow, but is she really Puerto Rican? Does she really speak Spanish? She ever been to the island? So you would have rather that she lost. I mean, that's basically what you're saying, because you thought that same thing before she came out them damn blocks. Before that gun went out. You could have said that tweet before. You could have said that tweet in Heat 1 and Heat 2. All the different heats leading up to the semifinals. You could have said that same shit. But you were waiting for her to lose. You were hoping every time that she advanced that the next time she ran, that would be it. Get out of here. Your colors are showing.
And there was, and it enrages me that she feels that she has to answer to these people. Mm-hmm. There was one that she posted where another mouth breather was saying how, I bet you only have African-American on your forms. And I'm like, okay, is there something else she should have on her forms? Because in Puerto Rico, y'all are always othering Black people anyway. This is what you want? If you're a Black Puerto Rican, you're either from the US, you're an African-American, you're not an African-American that is not Puerto Rican, or you Dominican. Mm-hmm. You don't want Black people part of the national project. And so ain't that what you want? Mm-hmm. Why should she represent y'all anti-Black scumbags? For why? She can't even enjoy her medal without y'all inserting yourselves with the authenticity test.
Beyond me. It's beyond me. And I think we might see the same thing with Panama, because Gianna Woodford, and I think she's running tonight, is in the finals for the 400-meter hurdles. And she's of the Panamanian diaspora. She's not born in the Republic of Panama. She doesn't speak Spanish. I think we have the potential to see the same thing happening. And if it does happen, will it be surprising? No, because again, Panama won its first Olympic medals in 1948. I think a silver and a bronze, or it might be two bronzes by Lloyd LaBeach. Until this day, I read in an article last year about the first medals the Panamanian Republic can claim in 1948. they say, but he really wasn't Panamanian. He was really Jamaican. I mean, I'm like, I wish he was, I wish he could go get them shits back. I wish he could just, just walk up out that grave and just, go get them shits back. And be like, let's
look, we're both in Yoruba. Like we can make it happen. But anyway, that's a whole nother chat.
These people beyond me. Good movie. All right.
So, thank you so much, Javier. If y'all have any questions, please put in the chat. We're wrapping up. Thank y'all for joining us. And I'm just really, for me, the Olympics, I'm just enjoying all of the Black women with their head wraps, with their cropped haircuts, with the nails, with the braids. And for me, it's not about it has nothing to do with the nation. No. It has nothing to do with the nation. I'm like, you go, girl. Yeah. That's where I'm at with it. Because, and really when they finish their heat, when they finish their match, whatever it is, and then they go and get the flag, that's when I'm like, switch channel, X out, block, report as spam. Like, the nation is what ruins the moment for me. Yeah. Because you have them, they're like, yeah, they're waving their flag. And the thing is, on one hand, though, I can understand, right? That this is their moment, that they do feel, and I can't speak for them. I don't know what goes on in their mind, but it could be a moment that they feel proud to be, for maybe those 2 seconds before the questioning comes, those 2 seconds that they're included. Damn right. Right. And this is what we constantly talk about is the exclusion, and how Black folks have never been intended to integrate into the nation at large. Mm-hmm. So I understand that the need to want that approval, and at the same time, I invite people to free themselves from that approval, because that approval is conditional.
Yeah. 100%. And I want to echo what you're saying. I know we're being very critical of the Olympics, but I definitely want to let y'all know that I love seeing all these people out there putting on for themselves and their communities, all of their communities that they represent in the way that they want to represent them. So I love it because it's real. I think all of the stuff, all of the energy that they put into their sport, into their craft is well-deserved. I mean, it's hard work and should be recognized, because even though their bodies are being used by the state, I always want people to understand that it's still their bodies. And that if they want to get up at 3:00 in the morning and work out to who knows whenever and push their bodies to whatever limits that it can go to, they should be able to. And because I think we get to the point where we only allow the freedom of expression of the body to be exclusively belonging to white people, where they don't have to be thought as being used by the state, that they don't have to be compared to enslaved people every time they go out and perform. They just are there having a good time. So I think we can be critical of the system, but I think a part of being critical of the system is allowing Black people to be and do whatever we want with our bodies, including if we want to play sports at a very high level and compete. We should be able to do that. Now, that should not be the only way that we have an opportunity to have a dignified life. But if we want to go out there and show out and do this and train, we should be able to do the same thing, and nobody should make us feel bad about it. So I love that all those people are doing those things for themselves. Like they're seeing the fruits of what I can't do. I ain't gonna get up at 2:00 in the morning to work out. That ain't gonna happen for me. I love that they can do that. I ain't doing it. So, and I think they should be able to bask in that as much as they should and they can every day.
Thank you for that. That's important, because as you say, people will look at athletes, NFL players. I hear this all the time. Oh, it's like the plantation. I'm like, no, it's not. that is not like the plantation. Let's not even get into that. But the fact that you are asserting that they have their own autonomy over their bodies, that is important. And first of all, I'm not gonna let you off the hook because you were at Division I football. Okay, just so that people know, Javier is an athlete in his own right, a world-class athlete in his own right, generational athlete. You are playing D1 football. You know, and I'm not no sport junkie or anything. I used to be an athlete way back when. I used to do hurdles in high school. I played football as a kid and my dad was the soccer coach. But you are a world-class athlete in your own right. Your dad, your mom, your sister, your brother too, right?
Yeah.
Javier's dad traveled, left his own anti-Black country to attend the HBCU to be a world-class tennis athlete. Met Javier's mom, who's a world-class tennis athlete. And they're just over here just seething Black excellence all day every day. Thank y'all for joining us. Tamika said, wanted to mention that currently in Florida, the brutal arrest of 2 Black men were 5 Latino police officers who have now been arrested. And the ongoing violence, right? And this is ongoing conversation because it's ongoing realities. These are material and lived realities. And please join us for our next chat. We're gonna have some chats around Afro-Costa Rican month, which is August, Afro-Salvadoran month, which is August. And we have a couple guests lined up for that. And I guess we're gonna do it on Zoom again, because obviously we can't, Instagram won't let us live. So, this is fine for me, right? The Zoom platform, and we may upload it later, maybe not. We could do what we want. Black people we could do what we want. So thank y'all for coming. And we will see you next time. Look out also for our upcoming workshops, summer school workshops. Congratulations again to Dr. Javier Wallace.
Oh God.
Completed his PhD this year.
Thank you.
Black excellence and Black regularness. We gotta uplift Black regularness too.
Sure.
But yeah, congrats, big homie.
Appreciate Dash, everything that you do for the world, the community. Dash, I gotta thank y'all so much. We gotta keep letting Dash know about the mark that she's making on the world. She don't believe me, but I swear to whatever higher power you believe in, that people be like, I just love listening to Dash talk. I'm like, how you know her? I think I'm like, well, how y'all what?
No, for real, how you know me? The thing, what is funny is that people entertain my shenanigans. I am a freaking clown. Like, I am a clown in real life, and you know me for almost a decade. I'm a freaking clown. And so I'm like, y'all are interested. Okay, I guess, that's cool. I'll stick around, right? No, but thank you. This is collective work. So I'm only a reflection of you. But now I have to do my own workout, Billy playing. So let me go instrumentalize my body. I fuck with Billy, heavy. But good night, y'all. I guess you stop the recording because I don't want to mess up anything, because this is good and I want to